You are still here, a Buddha reflection. I didn't notice it all at once. It came quietly, almost politely. The sense that something I once relied on was no longer there in the same way. The direction that used to feel clear had softened. The version of myself I understood felt distant. And if you've ever felt this too, you might have wondered the same thing I did. Have I lost something, or am I changing in a way I don't yet understand? There is a moment like this that the Buddha pointed toward, not as a problem, but as a doorway. A moment where identity loosens, where certainty fades, where the mind reaches for something familiar and finds only space. At first, that space can feel unsettling, like standing without ground, like becoming someone you cannot yet define. But what if this is not where you are falling apart? What if this is where something unnecessary is quietly falling away? In this reflection, I want to explore that space with you. Not to give answers, but to look more closely. To understand what it means to feel lost, and why that feeling may be closer to clarity than we think. Because you are still here. And that matters more than the story of who you thought you had to be. The quiet shift. There are moments when you begin to feel as if something inside you has gone silent. Not broken, not gone, but quieter than before. You wake up and the direction that once felt obvious now feels uncertain. The things that once defined you seem distant, almost like they belong to someone else. And in that space, a subtle unease appears. You may call it losing purpose. But if you sit with it gently, without rushing to name it, you begin to notice something else. The Buddha once observed that what feels like loss is often movement. Not disappearance, but transition. Like a river changing its path, not ceasing to flow. And so you begin, not by fixing this feeling, but by turning toward it. Not as a problem, but as something to understand. The weight of who you were. You carry an image of yourself, often without realizing it. Someone capable, someone healing, someone who has already overcome certain things. This image becomes a quiet contract. It tells you how you should feel, how you should respond, how far along you should be. But when pain arises again, or confusion returns, something tightens. A thought appears, almost automatic. This should not be happening anymore. The Buddha saw this tightening clearly. Not in words, but in the way the mind resists what is already here. And in that resistance, suffering deepens. Not because of the pain itself, but because of the conflict around it. The identity you hold begins to press against the reality unfolding, and the pressure creates strain. The subtle resistance. What you resist does not leave. It stays, asking to be seen differently. When identity speaks, it often sounds reasonable. It says you have grown, you have changed, you should not be here again. But beneath that voice is fear. Fear that returning pain means failure. Fear that you are not who you believed yourself to be. The Buddha's way is quieter. He does not argue with the pain. He does not defend an identity. He simply observes. Pain is present. Sensation is present. Thought is present. None of it needs to threaten who you are. And when you stop protecting an idea of yourself, the experience softens. Pain becomes something that moves, not something that defines. Like weather passing through an open sky. The shape of choice. Identity does not only shape how you feel, it shapes what you choose. Without noticing, you begin selecting paths that confirm who you think you are. You avoid what contradicts it. You move toward what reinforces it. At first, this feels like stability, but over time, a quiet discomfort grows. Something feels slightly off, slightly constrained. Like wearing clothes that no longer fit, but refusing to change them. The Buddha would not tell you to abandon identity. He would invite you to see it, to notice how it influences movement, and in that noticing, a small space opens. A space where choice is no longer bound to self-image, but guided by what feels true in the moment. The signal of discomfort. Discomfort is often misunderstood. It feels like something to avoid, something to correct. But if you listen closely, it carries information. It signals misalignment, not failure, but movement asking to happen. Yet identity resists this signal. It prefers consistency. It wants to remain recognizable, even if that means staying uncomfortable. The Buddha saw this clearly. Clinging creates tension. Not because life is wrong, but because the mind is holding too tightly. When you allow discomfort without immediately reacting, it begins to unfold. It reveals what is shifting, and slowly, without force, alignment returns. Not as a fixed state, but as a living response. Becoming without definition. You are not the form you hold. You are the space in which it changes. Letting go of identity can feel like losing ground. There is a quiet fear underneath. If I am not this, then what am I? The mind searches for something solid, something to hold on to. But the Buddha pointed to something deeper, not a fixed self, but awareness itself. The capacity to notice, to feel, to respond. This does not disappear when identity shifts. It becomes clearer. And in that clarity, something unexpected happens. You feel more alive, not less. More open, not lost, because you are no longer confined to a single definition. You are shaped by each moment, not limited by the past. The fear of disappearing. At the root of identity is a quiet fear, that without it, you might vanish. That without a clear self, there is nothing left. This fear can feel strong, almost convincing. But when you look directly, something remains. Even when roles fall away, even when certainty dissolves, there is still awareness. Still presence, still the simple fact of being here. The Buddha did not remove identity by force. He revealed its looseness. And in that seeing, fear begins to soften. You realize you are not disappearing. You are simply no longer confined. The honesty of relationship. As identity loosens, relationships begin to change. You are less concerned with being seen a certain way, less invested in maintaining an image, and something opens. Conversations become simpler. Listening deepens. You are no longer performing yourself. You are present. The Buddha understood that connection arises not from perfection, but from honesty. When you are not defending who you are, there is space for others to meet you. And in that meeting, something real begins to grow. The grief of letting go. What falls away was never lost. It returns as understanding. Letting go is not always peaceful. There can be grief. A quiet mourning for who you were, for the certainty you once held, for the identity that felt like home. This grief is not a mistake. It is part of integration. The Buddha did not deny this tenderness. He allowed it, fully, without resistance. And in allowing it, grief transforms. It becomes softer, less heavy. Not something to escape, but something that moves through you, leaving space behind. The illusion of control. Control often hides beneath identity. You manage how you are seen. You shape what you reveal. You try to maintain consistency. It feels like strength, but it requires constant effort. The Buddha saw control as a subtle tension, a holding that never fully relaxes, and beneath it, a fear of being exposed. When you begin to release control, even slightly, something shifts. You no longer need to uphold an image. You begin to rest, not in certainty, but in honesty. The power of being seen. There is a fear that if you are seen fully, without armor, you will lose something. Respect, safety, connection. So you hide parts of yourself. You present what feels acceptable. But this hiding creates distance, not only from others, but from yourself. The Buddha's way does not force vulnerability. It allows it, gently, where it feels safe. And in that allowance, you begin to see that being seen does not destroy you. It connects you. It softens the need to defend. Strength without pretense. True strength does not protect an image. It rests in what is real. Strength is often misunderstood as control, as composure, as being unaffected. But this kind of strength is fragile. It must be maintained, protected, constantly reinforced. There is another kind of strength, quieter, less visible. It does not depend on appearance. It comes from presence, from the ability to remain with what is, without turning away. The Buddha embodied this kind of strength, not as performance, but as steadiness. And this steadiness is available, not through effort, but through allowing. Resting in not knowing. As identity softens, another space opens. Not knowing. Not knowing who you are becoming. Not knowing what comes next. This can feel unsettling at first. The mind wants answers. It wants direction. But the Buddha pointed to a different way. Not knowing is not a gap. It is openness. When you stop rushing to fill it, the body begins to relax. The nervous system settles. You realize that not knowing is not danger. It is space. And in that space, life continues to unfold. The end of striving. Much of your effort has been directed toward becoming. Becoming better, clearer, more defined. But there is a subtle exhaustion in this striving. The Buddha did not reject growth. He revealed the tension within striving. The constant reaching, the subtle dissatisfaction with what is. When striving softens, something unexpected appears. Ease, not because everything is resolved, but because you are no longer pushing against the moment. You are meeting it. The quiet freedom. Freedom is not found in becoming someone new, but in no longer needing to be someone fixed. In the end, nothing dramatic needs to happen. You do not become a different person. You do not arrive at a final answer. Instead, something loosens. The grip on identity softens. The need to control fades. The fear of not knowing quiets. And in that quiet, there is freedom. Not loud, not overwhelming. Just a gentle sense of space. A trust in movement. A willingness to meet life as it comes. You are still here. More open. Less defined. More alive. And life no longer feels like something you must protect yourself from. It feels like something you can meet, moment by moment, without needing to know exactly who you are. This is Buddha Reflections, where philosophy, insight, and lived experience meet to explore mind, impermanence, and release. Thanks for your time. It's been a delight. What should we explore next? Comment, share, and save your insight. Subscribe to Orbital Dharma and keep your thoughts bright.